Welcome to Inside City Hall. I'm your host, Mayor Darrell Seymore, and on our today's show we will be talking about preparedness for the upcoming fire season, which we don't hope we have any fires, but we got to be prepared. Anyway, our guests today are Chief Joe Shelley from the Shelley Police Department, Catrina Jenkins from Navajo County, and Clay Wood from the Timber Mesa Fire. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Katrina, you're a storm already in our studio today, right?
Hopefully not.
They told me that we had like the Hurricane Katrina, and so she's messed things up already today. So, but now we're going to give you a break here. You're going to be able to tell us how to be calm, how to reach out, and you're going to kind of share with us what your role is to keep everything working in the event of a real emergency.
Perfect. So I get to work with these handsome gentlemen next to me, and all of the rest of our partners in and around the mountain. So when an emergency happens, whether it is a wildfire, hopefully not, or any other kind of emergency like a gas leak or something like that, we're here to get the resources that they might need, and that way they get to focus on their jobs.
Okay. So what are some of the resources that you help coordinate, for them?
Sure. We do public information a lot. So for example, during Cedar Fire, we had our call center up, and that's 311. And we train volunteers to come in and answer the phones and only give out the vetted information from these guys. And then, so that's just one example of what we do during an emergency.
Okay. One of the hardest things we have today when there's an emergency is social media. And everybody wants to get their news off of social media, but we've found if we'll turn to the information that's correct and the information that's real time and can possibly help, that's normally the source of 311.
Sure.
And that. So now, can people sign up for 311? How does that work so that they're advised of alerts and text messages and things that come from that?
So there's a couple of different actual alert systems. So there's 311, which is a website and a phone call, or there's Ready Navajo County, and that's actually the alert system. And you can opt into it if you go to our website at navajocountyaz.gov and visit the emergency management page. You'll find the link to opt into those alerts.
Okay. What have you guys found as far as any emergency or in a situation, you've been through one near evacuation here with the Cedar Fire last year, but a lot of information was coming, back and forth. We've had recently a couple of schools where we've had some real situations that are happening, but these are kind of preparing for more than anything. Today we want to talk a little bit about fire preparedness and things that we have coming. Clay, what do you find out there with the fire department that you guys are looking for, trying to help people understand?
I think a lot of what we do is the prevention side. That's, of course, where safety starts, is in the prevention. And, just making sure people that they're cleaning up around their places, that, fire's inevitable. It's going to happen somewhere at some place. So our goal is to keep it as small as we can. So if people can work on their yards, keep their trimmings picked up, eliminate the ladder fields. Ladder fields are the lower dead branches, and it allows fire to start on the ground, and it'll creep up and get into the canopies. They'll get a lot of their wood piles that they've had on their porches, through the winter, if they'll clear those off for the summer. And, we really like to have a defensible space. We do have crews going out right now, and they're doing a program called Red Tag, Green Tag. And there's about 1,500 parcels in Timber Mesa Fire District that covers Linden, Shelley, and Lakeside that they'll be evaluating. And during these evaluations, they're looking to see that it is a defensible space. And if there's not, they'll leave a red tag there for the homeowner, and they'll visit with the homeowner if they're there and talk to them about some things that they can do to help clean up around there to help make it more defensible. What we don't want to have happen is people not do anything, or they see the red tag and they think, oh, well, the fire department's not going to do anything to help me. That's not the truth. We're going to do everything we can to help them. It's an educational tool.
Uh-huh.
So I think it works well.
So this is just something that's ongoing right now that you're passing out to the different homes, different subdivisions?
That's correct. We do it every spring, and it's just to help people be educated on what we need to have them do to help us protect their property a little bit better.
Okay. Chief, what's your role with everything going forward here to try to make our community safe?
Well, Mary, you hit it on the head about the misinformation. and 2 years ago, the Cedar Fire, when it was almost 2 years ago now, when it was coming out, we were battling against all the misinformation out there from the different people that were making up stories. They were thinking that this is what was going on. Instead of going to the resources that were vetted resources, they were really telling you exactly what was going on, which comes from the firefighters, the people on the frontline personnel, knowing what's happening. They can get that information out, and 311 is exactly where that information should go to or does go to, and if you call in, you'll get that information. The only problem is sometimes there's a lot of people calling 311 at one time, so we just ask for people's patience on that, because it will come out. The second portion of that is the Ready Navajo County that Catrina was talking about. We utilize that resource for getting information about a lot of different emergencies that are out there. You touched on the couple of incidents that we had at the schools lately where someone thought they saw someone with a gun. Again, misinformation. They came out that created such a fervor for a response from the community. We had people coming there. If they sign up for Ready Navajo County, we can actually send information out to them on these things saying, this isn't vetted information, the police are already on scene, this is what's going on. So fast forward into the fire season and what we do, working with the fire department, working with emergency management at Navajo County, we combine our resources to ensure that we have things ready to go. And what Catrina was going to get into, or what she probably will get into, is all the other preparedness that happens, such as your animals, where to take them, where the shelters are going to be. A lot of it's kind of fluid because we don't know where the fire is going to hit or what direction it's going. So again, working with everybody here on the mountain, which Department of Public Safety, Navajo County Sheriff's Office, Pine Top Lakeside Police Department, all the police departments up here, including ours at Shelley, it's the same thing. We all try to work together to ensure that everybody's safe, orderly. But this thing right here, what we were talking with Clay was saying, is prepare yourself at the very beginning. Come January, you should be ready to go at any time, really. Mm-hmm. And the idea, though, is just don't get yourself caught behind, a little bit behind on things, because you'll miss things, such as your medicine, or even the dogs or pets' medicines, or the kids' medicine. So you want to make sure you get all that stuff done. All right.
Chief County alluded, Catrina, a little bit about, we have animals. We have, in this area, there's a lot of, people who don't just have one or two. There's farm animals, there's domestic animals that people are very attached to, and there's shelters for these places. But all of a sudden, when you're uprooting and you're moving, what do you do to provide for a safe haven for these animals?
So if in the case of an evacuation, if an evacuation order is given, people are absolutely should take their animals with them. If it's a small domestic pet, we will set up a domestic animal shelter really close to wherever the human shelter is set up. If it's the large animals, we will ask them to take them to the Taylor Rodeo Grounds or the Navajo County Fairgrounds. We've got agreements and those arrangements already preset. So those are already taken care of. And then in the case of some different types of animals, because you never know what you're going to get, we've had emus and all kinds of crazy stuff. We'll make arrangements for what those needs are.
What are the needs just for individuals? Let's say, I can't afford to go out of town very far, or I don't have any other family. What do we have for shelters for people?
Sure. So we're going to set up a shelter wherever is best suited towards that emergency. For example, during the Cedar Fire, we set it up in the Snowflake schools. Mm-hmm. It's far enough away, but it's not too far. We did end up having to move that shelter to the Holbrook High School, which is still in our county. We're not going to move people to the next county over if we don't have to. We may have to go to Apache County, and we partner with them all the time. During Wall of Fire, they came over here. During Rodeo Chetasky, we sent people their way. So we work with all of our partners, not just in our county, but around our county as well.
Okay, great. Clay, what do you find as far as around homeowners that they can do that they kind of put off a little bit, lacking, or maybe they just don't want to? What can you instill that they can really do to make a big difference to protect their homes? That's not real expensive.
Sure. And I like that question. If you think about going through the fall winter that we thought we were going to have, we still got a little bit of moisture. We started to have the spring, but we have a lot of grasses out there that you'll notice. You know, there's a lot of buffalo grass and things like that around here, and that is all going to die. We've had, quite honestly, we've had a really busy fire season already. If you drive down any one of the highways coming in or out of Shelley, you'll see where we've had fires along the highways. Well, that same fuel that there is no different than what's around most of our homes. And so it doesn't take much to get that ignited. Just a spark from a firework or a cigarette or anything will get that going. A lot of chains, bearings, wheel bearings, and things like that we've had on the highway. My point with that is around your home, you know, you don't always know what the neighborhood kids or anybody is going to do, or somebody just walking through with a cigarette or anything like that. But these fires start pretty small, and they start pretty easy. And then when we get a little bit of wind pushing it, they'll move really, really fast. We had a fire in November that, quite honestly, it was about 5 o'clock in the evening, which is dark, and it moved as fast in November at 5 o'clock in the evening as it would in a March day. So it really traveled fast. We're seeing that all over. So my recommendation is make sure that your surface fuels, your grasses and things like that, get a weed eater, a lawnmower, whatever you can do to eliminate those. Try to get separation between that grass and your home, whether it's cinders or a sidewalk, or just getting out there and clearing it with a shovel or a rake or a hoe. And then the other thing is trying to make sure that, with a lot of pine trees that we have, is getting those dead pine needles out of your rain gutters and things like that. Because if we do get any kind of fuels in the air or fires in the air, and you get the embers coming down, right, it can get on that roof. And typically the asphalt shingles do a really good job, but when they've got dead pine needles on there, they don't do such a good job. So those are
some good tips there, being able to clean out some of that debris that just kind of builds up around. You're surprised with the wind that we've had, it will kind of funnel those pine needles together, and you'll be glumped up underneath your decks or someplace in the corner, and that's a lot of fuel in one place.
Yeah, particularly if you've got any kind of a deck or wood siding or anything like that, making sure those dead fuels are out of there is important.
Right. Chief, what did you see last time when we had the cedar fire? I know you were down kind of in the front line. You were kind of being briefed of what was going on. How much time or notice? I mean, a lot of times people, I don't want to use the word panic, but they have to have a clear understanding that we are going to give them enough time, if at all possible. We're aware of situations. We can never say where a fire is going to start, but based on experience and where they've started in the past, we have had ample time, and we've had break points of where, this is when the fire gets to this point, and then we're going to, look at possible evacuation here or there. Walk through that process a little bit, if you could, please.
Well, and working with the fire personnel that are working the lines themselves, and the tier 1 teams, tier 2 teams that they bring in. And in fact, Cedar Fire last year, we had a tier 3 team on site when it first broke out. So we already had National Forest people, also the reservation fire prevention people were out. Everybody was out there working that. And Timber Mesa was out there with us with their engine companies, wondering where they could go and what we're going to do be defensible at this point. That's when they started making their analysis, trying to figure out the wind speed, the fuels that they're coming up into, what direction it's going, which way it could fork out, any different ways with the canyons that we have up here towards Sholo, towards Pine Top Lakeside, towards McNary, because it was fingering out from the from the Cedar area. They were able to tell us, they were giving us breaks and saying, at this point, be ready to, probably give an evacuation notice. If it gets to this point, we are evacuating. And we kept everybody pretty well informed of where we were with that entire thing when we were doing our updates on our 311 and also Ready Navajo County. And we get about 2 to 6 hours. It just depends on if it does make a run up one of those canyons. Again, I found out the biggest thing they kept saying was it goes really, really fast uphill, and it was coming uphill. So they said, we can't really give you a really good time, but we're talking 6-8 hours. And in fact, they missed one of their marks where it actually got to that break point, and it was, we need to probably look at evacuation now because it was traveling so fast. then Mother Nature does what she does, and God says, you know what, we'll push the wind the other way, and kind of stopped everything for that for the first couple of nights there. So worked out very well for us. But plenty of time is given for people to, again, get ready to go. Hopefully we're ready to go. Get set to go, which means putting all your stuff in your cars and vehicles. Have a plan to where you're going to, those kind of things. And then when it comes out, 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5, 6 hours, whatever it is, we'll be in an orderly fashion. We'll make sure that everybody understands where the evacuation routes are. They'll be very well defined by local law enforcement, by fire, anybody else that we need to help us with all of those. But you're going to probably see a couple of vehicles from other counties coming in. Sure. Like you said, Apache County, Gila County, you'll have people from the reservation all the way across. So it'll be a huge group effort on that. But you'll have plenty of time to do that. But if you're not ready to go, you're going to run out of that time, and you'll miss those things.
So, I mean, it's a very good point. At this point, just natural causes, natural instinct, we should all be ready. We should be to that point where, we're ready. I don't want to announce that we're doing anything drastic, but I think just as your neighbors, kind of see what you can do to help people around. There's a lot of homes that are defensible, and there's a lot of homes that are not as defensible. As I go out and look at different homes in my business, it's definitely, you can tell the people that are more fire-wise than others and a little bit more ready. And you can tell the people that have been through 1 or 2 evacuations or potential evacuations up here of what they take it just a little bit more serious. Katrina, tell us a little bit more about anything that we haven't touched on today, a little bit about your department, how many people are all involved when you're, say, full-blown in a situation possibly.
Gosh. So one thing I would like for folks to remember for getting ready, so we have ready, set, go. Get ready, like Chief said, be ready year round. This is not just about wildfire season, it's about all of our hazards, all of our risks. Certainly wildfire is probably our biggest one, but tomorrow there could be a gas leak and you may need to evacuate your home for a couple of days. You need to be ready now. Then get set. If you hear of something going on, load that kit up and get ready to go. Pay attention to the news, pay attention to the vetted sources, like Chief said, 311, or the social media pages that from the police or fire department or my department. And then finally go. If you have health concerns, leave early if you need to. Sometimes the smoke up here bothers our citizens and causes other additional health issues. So if you need to get out of that, go early. If we have a shelter set up, you're more than welcome to come, even though you haven't been notified of an evacuation. So we're going to be using that terminology, ready, set, go. And to get ready, 5 Ps. People and pets, prescriptions, papers, personal items, and priceless. So you want to make sure you and your pets are ready. You have your prescription meds. If you think there's something going on, you talk to your doctor. They'll give you a couple extra days in advance if you can. Papers, important documents for your home, your insurance, things like that. A little bit of cash is always good in case the power goes down. And then finally, those priceless objects that can't be replaced, pictures and things like that.
Okay. Clay, anything that you want to share?
I like what she had to say. I think one thing that both the police department, they do our dispatching, and we get a lot of phone calls. People want to know what the smoke is. If there's smoke in the area, there's a lot of people around here that are very concerned with that, and rightly so. But they'll call our phone numbers, and we would ask them to recognize that 311 number as well as the website. That's a great place for information, and it really will relieve the dispatchers from answering those non-essential phone calls, as well as it'll give them the latest information. I think one other thing I would add is if you do have a fire, whatever you do, practice that escape route. Know how to get out of there. I think people tend to, we're a little naive because we think it's not going to happen to us. But if it does, just get away, get out. Don't go back in for absolutely anything. And we've got resources that are pretty close. And we're going to do our best to get there in a rapid, set of time and start taking care of their emergency. But if they go back in, there's potential that they may not come back out, and we certainly don't want to see that with anybody.
Right. Very, very good point there. Chief?
Building on what Clay just said, about listening to what's going on out there and being prepared for everything. But listen to the officers, especially if they come out there and they ask you to leave. I know we've had fires in the past where we've done full evacuation and nothing happened, and I understand that. But what he also picked on was, if you're asked to leave and you decide to stay, you must stay on your own property, because if you're not, we're going to have a lot of people up here, and a lot of people don't know you. They don't know our winter visitors. They don't know everybody else that's there. And if you go over to someone else's property, you're going to be escorted off that property immediately. You're not going to be given a second chance to go back to your house. You're going to be taken off the property because we're there to protect also the people's property they've left. So the idea is, once you have that plan, go somewhere. That's great with us. We'll figure out where you're at a later time, but we just want to make sure everybody's okay inside your house. And then again, once you leave. These fires, and I'm not going to sound like I'm a fireman, that's for sure, but the idea is these fires, sometimes we think we have a good containment on them, and the wind picks up, goes a different direction. It might hit a propane bottle at someone's house, we don't know, and it goes 10 different directions from there, in which we thought we were in a safe zone. Now you're right in the middle of the target area. Right. So again, be ready for all of that.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we have a unique community in the sense that a lot of communities have two ways. They have one way in, and if that's blocked, there's one way out. Essentially, a road passes, but we have 6 or 7 in our community, main arteries that are coming in or leaving, our community. So with that, but you hit a good point, that a lot of times people want to stay behind, we get a little bit of complacent, and that can cause a bottleneck, and it can, although you don't feel threatened, you're reluctant to leave or to follow, can sometimes cause somebody else maybe not to have the comfort zone that they want. And we've been fortunate to have real community involvement, community working together, people being patient, people being courteous, and those are things that are very important if we get to that point over this year. Catrina, 311, right?
311info.net or 311 on your phone.
All right, and you're ready?
We're ready.
You're set?
We're set.
Not set yet?
We hope we don't have to go.
That's exactly it.
All right, all those things that we can do. Well, I appreciate it, the opportunity of just sharing, and hopefully our public learns something from this today, and they'll take it and they'll share it with other people as they go along, so as a community we are better prepared in things that we have. Now, anything else that you guys really want to talk about? We got a couple of minutes here. If there's last thing, do you have a web page too with the 311, a website?
Yes.
That
so it's 311info.net.
Okay.
Yeah, and we post, I like what Clay was saying about the smoke. Whenever we get notified about prescribed burns, we're going to be posting about that on our website, the 311info.net. So check that first before calling dispatchers. Dispatchers need your help too.
Right.
They're the first responders, huh, guys?
Oh, yeah.
And I think we really need to realize that 911 is not a number to call in the event of a situation. Listen to the public announcements and things that way. Get your information other than 911 and leave those calls strictly for those emergencies that somebody needs some response.
We have some community outreach programs coming up, don't we?
Through Timber Mesa, I can't keep track of all the community outreach done. We have a community risk reduction manager, Kirk Webb, and he's kind of like, where's Waldo? He is pretty much everywhere, continually going over community outreach. So we do have some information we can get out. We keep that on our website as well at Timber Mesa. And anyway, I wished I had more information on that, but he's very aggressive in what he does. So if you have any questions, our non-emergent office number is 928-537-5100, and ask for Kirk. And if you're a civic group, like a community, that would like to hear more about any kind of fire preparedness or things like that, Kirk can certainly come out and talk to you, and that's what he does.
That's great.
And I know we had a couple of programs coming up with the FireWise stuff, and those are on your website as well.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being here, Catrina. Appreciate it.
Thank
Clay,
you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Chief. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Inside City Hall today. Stay tuned for an important PSA. Ready, set, go. Have a great day.